Okay, so in this video, I'm going to take you through getting a model started. In the previous video, I talked about things like the um, keyboard setup and which version of Blender and how to do add-ons. So we're going to go through that a little bit at the beginning of this, but then we'll get into the modeling. So the first thing, when you first come into Blender, click on General. We're in 3D mode. Explained what these windows were the last time. You'll start in by default in object mode. Again, here, let me turn on my screen sharing, screencast keys. Yeah, okay, so what I just did is hit spacebar, which in the industry standard keys is autoplay on the animation. We're not doing animation right now, so literally we want to get rid of this in the layout menu, which we can do if we want. You can just, if you notice when you're moving your mouse around, if you go down in the bottom corner, you get this little plus. Anywhere that you're on the corners, you're going to get a plus on any of these panels. And what happens is that's for creating a new window if you drag it in the opposite direction. But if you drag it over another panel, it'll replace that panel. So now we've got just the 3D view, our scene graph with view layer selected, and then our properties panel over here. One of the things I didn't talk about in the last is you've got this little, if you want to, I talked about the keyboard commands for like holding down Alt and then left mouse button, but you can do the same thing with this little toggle right here, just by clicking on the little widget. If you want to go into camera mode, you can click on that. You'll see you get a little viewport. You can click out again, and here's your zoom icons if you want to do that. It's better just to learn the keyboard commands because you'll be able to work quicker. All right, so now the first thing we need to do if we're going to start a model is import some reference images. So to do that, as I talked about in the last video, you get preferences. You want to do import, and then there'd be like images as planes, which I have checked. If you don't have it checked, check it. Basically here, check it. And then when you do that, if you go File, Import, down here at the bottom will be images as planes. And we can go to our find. I may have made a folder for it, probably. Let's go. Here we go, Pebbles model. Here's our images. So we'll take them both. I'm just going to click on both of them. You get some options for how you want to set up these images. If you bring them in as principled, it's like they're put on a shader that has shininess and a bunch of things that's going to make it hard to kind of see the details. So I recommend doing shadeless. And for blend mode, instead of that, just make it opaque so there's no transparency. In case they have transparency, you can add that, but otherwise just set it to opaque so you don't have to go and do that in the shader later because it'll cause some Z sorting issues. Don't use alpha, and that's pretty much it. And then import images as planes. And what happens is, I'll delete this box. Go into shaded mode. Explained that the last time. So here's our images as references. Right now, when it imports them, it's importing them on the y-axis. And what happens, so the green is y, the red is x. You can see it, same thing up here. So it's z up, z is up, y is going forwards and backwards, x is left and right. So what we want to do is select both of these images and then hit E and then hold down Control, and you'll get up here in the corner, you're going to get a little rotation degrees, and you just want to snap them. This holding Control makes them snap to the like 5-degree increments. And just rotate them until they're 90 degrees rotated. So now they're oriented to the x-axis, a little bit back. If you want to scale them bigger, you can do that just so you can see them a little easier. And what we want to do is put them in a container so we can turn them off and on easily. So we're going to right click and move to a collection, make a new collection, and just call this reference. Doesn't matter what you call it, but just so you know what's what, there's reference. And you may want to go and move them around in the scene as a start or later on when you're modeling. However, sometimes you can accidentally grab stuff and just move it around willy-nilly, and it gets a little unsorted. So what you can do to disable the ability to move that is if you go up under this little filter icon or this funnel, you can basically turn on this little arrow key, and that'll give you another filter in your selections over here. And you can just turn off the ability to select. So now when I click on these, nothing happens, but they're in the viewport. Let's save the file so that we don't have to go and do that again. Let's go back out and go into 5 pebbles. And we're just going to call this 5 pebbles. Save. Excuse me. All right. So what we have is some reference here to start with. And if we wanted to be picky about whatever size we wanted to model at, we could scale the images to get them perfect and then just model against that. And since we've got these front and side references, might as well do it. So I'll show you how to do that. So let's go back up here and deselect or enable selection on these so we can get them set up again. We want to pick which one we want to model. Since we'll probably model the clothes second, and we'll model the body first. Let's get the model set up so that it's centered in the plane as much as we can possibly do. The other thing is we want to get it scaled. So as a reference, to give you a kind of reference, each one of these squares represents a meter. So one way you can tell is if we add a mesh and a cube that comes in to the grid, and it's when you added it, it's up, if you click down here on the little window or the dialog that comes up, every time you do something, you're going to get a dialog for options to change down here. And it's going to say it's set for 2 meter size. Our default measurement here, units, is in meters. So if you go to the top, you see that's 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay. So what we want to know is, well, okay, how tall should this guy be? So I'm going to model them. I don't know how big they are in the game, but I'm going to model them at human scale. So if you look up on the web, like let's say the average, oh, it says here 4 feet 8 inches, right? Yep. Okay, there we go. 4 feet 8 inches is the size. So if we go and we do a conversion of, let me look it up on the web here. So you can go to Google and then just go meters to feet or feet to meters. And they'll give you a little conversion there. So we want to go 4 feet. So it'd be 4. So 4.8 would be 4.75 feet. So 4.75. Doing the math. So there's 12 inches in a foot. So 8 is 3/4 of a foot. So 4.75. So that comes out to 1.4478 meters. So what we could do for reference is make our cube, get a cube in here, and make it, let's say just now, 1.4478. 1.4478 as the size. Well, that's a plane, I guess. You can do whatever. And I'm going to rotate that, hold down control, rotate it 90 degrees. Now let's snap. You can click on these little the spheres at the edge of the widget up here, and it'll snap you to the orthographic view. Orthographic just means that there's no, you notice how things popped and you got some perspective. Orthographic means there's no perspective. You can get that by clicking on this little grid here. So that's orthographic. And when you look at orthographic in an angle, it's also isometric. So it's like you get these straight edges, but there's this weird lack of perspective. If you click on it again, there's your perspective. So to get the orthographic projected from the y-axis, just click on the little negative y here. That means you're looking towards the positive y, and now it's an orthographic. So now we have our 1.44 or 4.7 4.8 in 4 feet 8 inch plane here that's converted to 1.4478 meters. Let's move that up and hold down control and just shift it up until the base is on the x-axis like that. And then we'll take our plane behind it. Actually, let's take both planes since I'm assuming they're to scale. We're going to scale our 5 pebbles reference. I'm assuming that the 4 feet 8 inches is to the top of the head. Let's just get it roughly set up. Close enough. There we go. Move it back to the center. All right. And then we can lose this plane. So now we've got the scale set. So in isometric mode, they stand. Well, the other thing you can do, it's a nice little feature here, is notice we've got some extra space in the crop here. So if we wanted to edit this, you can go into edit mode and select these 2 points and then pull them up. Now it's going to scale that way. So what you can do to fix that is if you open up, excuse me, let me show you that again. There's a little arrow caret key over here in the corner. You'll barely see it. And you click on that, go to Tool, under Options, and there's this little checkbox called Correct Face Attributes. All that means is if I go and edit this, these vertices, if I turn this on, it leaves, it crops it as opposed to scaling it. So literally, I'm just pulling it up to the corner there. So that gives me, I can just double check and make sure it's on the X there. If we don't need this stuff for reference anymore, and we kind of don't, pull that, and then these colors, we can duplicate the image and just make the color palette. So we'll duplicate. So I just right clicked, duplicate, and pull that up here. And then we'll go into edit mode for that. Grab these 2 verts, and pull it up and get just our color palette. So we can have that as a separate reference and make it bigger. Go into object. Notice that because we're editing in edit mode, we've still got our center origin point offset. All you have to do is select the plane and go object, set origin to geometry, and it'll snap it to the center there, and then we can just hit scale and scale these color palettes up. We can use those later as a way of sampling the colors if we want them for materials. And let's go ahead. What I want to do is move this down because we know we've got the scale right. We don't have to necessarily be perfectly on the ground axis with the feet. some ways we're going to start with the head, so it's better to get the head centered on the world origin axis so that we can set it up to model it easier, since we're going to start with the head. So I'm just going to put it at the center of the sphere. And since these line up, I hope we can take this, duplicate it. Oops. You got to be careful when you duplicate objects. You can duplicate, and if you move, the object's sort of locked to the cursor, so you can move it that way. But we don't want to move it in this case. We want to keep them aligned, so we just right click, duplicate, don't move the cursor, and click again to deselect, and now it'll be in that axis. So what we can do then is like rotate on the 90 degrees again. And in this case, we will go to the axis and move the center of the head to be at that world origin there. And we can edit, select these now and crop. Adjust that part appears the same here. Keep the antennas in the view like that. So there's that head. And we can pull this face, this flat plane here, and put it, let's go into wireframe so you can see it a little bit easier, so you'll see the edge, and just line it on the y-axis there. So now what we want to do is center. Yeah, it's there. I got to pull this to the center from the y-axis. So if we go back into wireframe, you can see where that side view was offset. So we can just move that to the blue line here. And now you're starting to see how the heads align. They're not the same size. If they were drawn, they could be. We could scale it. We might do that still. Let's go ahead and crop this though. Edit, select these points, and then pull them over. All right, so that gives us kind of a reference to model against. Since we're not going to do the hands yet, let's just make it like that. Then close. We can always pull out the body later. There we go. Excuse me. Now, one thing we can do is we can set, instead of setting, selecting the object and setting it to world origin, you notice this little target element right here in the center of the screen. That's this. It's called the cursor. It's 3D cursor. What we want to do, since we have oriented these things to be at the world origin, and by default that cursor is at the world origin, is we can select these planes and hit object, set origin, and instead of origin to geometry, do origin to 3D cursor, and it will set it to the center of that point for the cursor. Same thing here, origin, set origin to 3D cursor. And that way now, if we want to scale this up and get it to match the size, assuming that it even can, but if we wanted to, we can pull it up and get it roughly like that, and then maybe pull so you have to kind of determine where the center of the head should be. So let's say it's on the bottom, the neck, even though it doesn't look right there. For modeling purposes, let's get it so that it lines up. The eyes don't align right, but we'll deal with that. Sure we're in the center. Yeah, pretty much. That's probably okay. It's a good start at least. Yeah, you can see where the antennas are longer, and so it's not drawn to scale. You can draw with a grid and get it right if you want, but for now, this is good enough. All right, let's turn off the arrows, and now what we can do just to make life a little bit easier is, let me think about this. you notice how the images crop each other as you look. Um, we can fix that. Like we can knock that out with an alpha mask. So what we can do is in these image textures, let's turn the selections back on. Select one of them, go into shading. Let's hit F in the viewport to zoom in on that. And what we want to do is kind of like crop out or make a mask that knocks out this gray color. So what you can do to do that is we need to lose, well, we can blend, we can do an alpha or transparency. So let's go to add, shader, and could do transparent. I'd rather almost just run. There's another way to do this shadeless option, so let's delete that. And we'll add a shader, principled BSDF. This is like the basic shader that has everything. So we'll draw the color instead of to base color. We're going to take it into emission. Oops. And take that color to that, which is like saying don't give any of this other shading to it. So let's run that to the surface. There's our texture, our image back. Wait, we got to run it into color too. Sorry. You need both. Notice that if we don't run it into emission, it's a little darker, and you can crank up the reflection so you get lights affecting it. So we want to make it rough. Run this color in and just set that emission to be like 0.5. And what I find is that gives us a better non-lit version of the shader that way. And then what we need to do is run a way of like running this gray as an alpha. So what you can do is, so the problem is like it's just that particular color of gray, and you want to sample that and run that as the mask going into this alpha input here. So trying to figure out how to sample it. Problem with gray is that it's like it's all colors at once, like it's the same color across red, green, and blue. So you could split this out into the RGB. So if I wanted to take out the red and mask that, I'll just give you an example of that. You go to color. It's probably, and let's do. If you just start typing, it's like RGB, and then there'll be like there's an input RGB. Nope, don't want that. It'd be separate. So converter probably here. So it'd be, instead of combine XYG, it'd be separate. Where is it? It's like it's changed. Let's just try separate color. There we go. Instead of separate RGB, it's separate color. You run this into that, and then if we wanted to just sort of like mask out the red part, you could run that red output into the alpha here. Nothing happens because the shader has the alpha turned off by default. So if you go under the beach ball over here and scroll down to settings, there's this blend mode, opaque. We turned that to opaque. By default, it would come in as blend, but we turned it to opaque when we first imported the images. But what you can set it to instead is alpha clip. And you'll notice that it's just providing now the red when we did that. And you can control that clip threshold. So you can kind of get like a rough outline. So it's basically just providing just that red input. And if you did green, it's going to do everything but except for the eyes because they're, like I said, gray is all colors. Same with blue. So if you wanted to be able to green screen this, you could like literally mix green into that gray, just put it on a great green background and then use green and then be able to alpha channel it out or what they call chroma key it out. I just wanted to show you that as a reference. So what you have to do instead is create a mask based on the entire image. The problem with that again is we've got this mid-tone gray, which is like the worst possible setup because you've got a dark gray in his headgear and then these other colors that are lighter if you looked at them as a grayscale. And if we can't easily target that mask. So what you can do is delete the separate here. And what you want to do is make a color ramp. We'll try it. We'll see if it works. Color ramp is just converting anything into different colors. So if we said run this into the factor, color into that, and then if we just run that color output into the alpha, nothing's gonna, well, something happens, but it's because we're running this, we're turning this whole image into a black and white now. And you see where we can like go and pull back elements of the image to a point, right? So what you can try to do is like invert where we run white to black. So it's like taking the image and making it into an invert. And now we have just this outline that we can use as a reference to model against. And it kind of helps you see a little bit easier the through the shapes. So you can sort of see the 3D-ness of it, right? The other thing you can do is rather than going to black, we could make that black be a lighter color, and that's going to pull back elements of it. So you get that kind of, you can get back the some of the shading, not all of it. And or make the black outline. If we go back and make this, I'm clicking on this color down here once I've selected the selector. If we click on the white, it's a way of making the white a little bit more, you know, tweaking it in if we want, just to get the rough outline, sketchy look. That's probably about as good as we're going to be able to do with this color image. I'll leave it to white. What I will do though is change from clip, alpha clip here to alpha blend. And that'll give me kind of more of a gray shaded version. And let me, instead of doing just a straight clip, then I can sort of control the transparency of the entire layer. Maybe get back some of the color if I wanted, but mainly so that I can take this white now and kind of blend it transparent a little bit more so I can just get a hint of it, right? So that's what I kind of want. And then go like hard edged. So now we've got this rough outline. Let's pull this back, go back to our layout tab. There's our outline shape for the start modeling the head. Let's turn off the selection of the images because we definitely don't want to move them now. So just click on those. And you have to decide now, okay, how do we want to model this guy? So you can kind of tell what I'm going for here is that this guy should be symmetrical. He's not drawn symmetrical. He's got this pose, right? If you wanted to model it symmetrical, you really only need half the reference because theoretically he is symmetrical across the face and not symmetrical this way, but at least symmetrical on the X. And so you really want to just model half of it, have the other part be flipped. So let's box it out here. I like to call this technique box modeling. So let's make a box, a cube, scale it down to fit the size of his head roughly. Let's look at it in the mode here. So we're going to go wide that way. We're going to go just to the edges of the ears and then to the top of the head, that, something like that. And then we'll go to the side and do the same thing. But really what we want to do is get like there's an implied sphere of his head with this nose that pops off of it, right? So we want to like get that sphere, get this centered on the sphere, like this. Okay. So you're like, well, why are we doing a box here? Because we're going to make this box into a sphere magically. So what you do is with this selected, go into edit mode, make sure we're in faces here, and then right click and hit subdivide, and that'll split it like into, it just subdivides at one level. And maybe do like 2 and 3. The main thing is you do want this center line because we're gonna use that center line as a way of cutting the face. The other thing is to, before you deselect anything, make it smooth so that it goes around like that. And that gives us roughly, let's go into x-ray mode so we can see, can't see our image reference, maybe wireframe, can't do it, darn it. Trying to figure out if our eyes will work. I think they will. Yeah, I usually like to start really low poly and then just add the details where I need them. And I think this will work. So let's go with that. Go back to object mode. Scale it in until it roughly fits 5 pebbles shape of his head. So you can kind of see where we're going with this, right? It would be nice if I could get some transparency and see through. So I think what I want to do is go ahead and apply a new shader. And then under that, maybe go turn the, let's try turning the alpha on and then making the blend mode. There we go. So now we get our shape and we can see through to our reference. The blend mode, the problem is like you're going to be able to see through everything. So what you can do to fix that is turn off back face culling. So now you only see the forward faces depending on the angle you're looking at. So it's kind of nice. You can see where you get Z fighting based on, that's where this blend sort of sucks, is it will cause Z fighting because of the depth buffer, and because they're all centered in the same place. You can't, it just sort of randomly decides which one to put where as you move it around. So it's okay. It's enough to work with to get a rough shape. And the other way we could do it is, instead of doing this, is to crank up our transmission so that we can see through it like it's rendering transparent without alpha. So by doing the transmission way up, where was that? Here. Yeah, we may not just, yeah, it's not going to show it. That's the problem. Transmission's not going to work, so leave it at 0 and take our alpha up to whatever we want to do to get will work. The other thing you'll find that helps to kind of see as we're modeling is to turn on under this show overlays effect. Down here, there's a wireframe under geometry. Just click that so you can actually see the edges of the shape to kind of get an idea for how they lay out relative to the face. Okay. So now we can kind of see, well, where do we want to put, how do we want to make this topology, the shape itself, based on the edge loops that we have. By edge loops, I mean the literally the faces or the edges that you see on the 3D model. So you can kind of see that based on this outline, we want some edge loops that go across. See, the problem is they're in different places. So these references are going to kind of mess us up a little bit, but I'm going to do my best to try to work with it as best I can. It may not come out exactly right. But the first thing we should do is literally go halfsies on this. So let's go to Edit and select a face up here in the corner. You got the select by vertex, edges, and faces. We want to select the faces and delete the left side. Now, one thing to make sure is have this X-ray mode here on this, because if you only select without the X-ray and we hit delete and faces, we're going to have some faces left, the back faces. So if you instead turn on select with the X-ray mode, you can select through the object and you'll see the center points of the faces, and you can delete all the whole half of that. Okay. So what that then does is it gives us the half to work with, and what you can do to mirror the other half, so we only have to model half of the face, is go under, let's go back, yeah, we're in object mode, and then go to modifiers, which I showed you in the previous video, and go generate mirror. And now we get our other half back. Make sure it's on the x-axis, depending on how you're modeling this. And what that means is if we go into edit mode, you can only edit half of this. If we go to vertex here, but as we move things, they're going to mirror across the axis, okay? And as we edit this, it will also mirror across the axis. So if we want to select like these 2 points to create this, call it a widow's peak, I guess. Or if we wanted to be very accurate and just like split faces here, this one and this one, make sure they're on the front. Let me turn off X-ray mode so I'm not selecting on the back side now, and just split those or subdivide. That'll give us points. It basically inserts extra vertices here and here. And we can select those 2 vertices and connect, and it'll draw a line across. That we're starting to add topology that will create his widow's peak. So now we can draw like one to here, connect those. Assuming this goes way back, kind of see where it's creating the widow's peak there. We want to probably connect across here, I guess. So select this face to here, connect. So you can see where we've created the beginning of that widow's peak. We'll deal with how it measures out here in a sec, because it may not be completely smooth, or we might need to push and pull points. But we've gotten the rough outline, so now we need to do the bottom part. So for the neck, so I'm guessing We can add a, just subdivide these two. And that'll create an edge loop there. And then you can go and hold down when you click on this edge slide, go to vertex slide and select by vertex, and then just move this along that point. And then it looks like we can go from here to here and just, I right clicked here and connect the vertex path. I'm looking at the ear, figuring out how to make it. Trying to figure out how to create that shape as I go. Probably like then join up to these 2 points, connect, so that gives us the bottom of the back of the head. And then we just got to figure out how to put this ear in there. So you could assume that the ear is basically this shape. Roughly this encompasses the ear, right? Let's look at it from the front just to make sure. So the ear's a little lower on this side. So really the ear's the whole side of the head, this part. So again, the references from side and front don't line up, but it looks like having his ears down a little lower is important. So maybe it's just these parts. Look at that from the side. See, it's weird because he's so far back over here. So maybe it's these parts. That looks maybe more right. Since it's low, yeah, that'll be low and it's on the side of the head. So what we can do then is pull this inset faces over here and just scale that in. So now it's like scaled inside of that point. Yep. And remember, I told you in the previous video about this useful tool, or maybe I didn't, I don't know, but like there's another add-on called loop tools. So what you can do is if you select these edges here, just the points we pulled there, and you right click, there's this loop tool. So you may not have that. If you don't, go under edit preferences, add-ons, and then do a search for loop mesh loop tools, and it'll come up. And if it's not activated, just activate it, and that's how you get that add-on. So then if you right click and go loop tools and circle, you get a nice, it takes those points and turns them into a circle that fits the shape of the mesh. It distorts it a little bit. You can pull it back out. Same thing with these two, or maybe you even just want to scale them in. Let's make them into a loop or a circle. They're going to be slightly rotated wrong. Let's look at it from the front, pull that out. I'm just trying to get roughly the shape of, again, low poly version of it. Seems about right. All right, so now let's select those faces, all of them. So he's got these kind of ear muffs that come off the side of the face. So we can, with those all selected, if we go to extrude and set up here under, instead of normal, set it to XYZ, just pull out and scale down a little bit the earmuff look that he has. Maybe look at it from the top view and see if we want to maybe flatten those a little bit more and scale them in a little more. Yeah, that's good enough for now. start. All right, so that's roughly that. We need to make the eyes. Go to the left. Figure out where the eyes are supposed to be, like we did with the ears. So I'm going to say roughly select by face. Sorry, face here, 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 here. Let's look at it from the side. So you can see where they're a little higher up. I'm going to kind of follow the front because I feel like that's got more of the traditional look that he has. What I'm trying to decide now is whether or not I want to add more of the general shape or edge loops into the eyes, because the eyes are pretty rounded. And if we only do these four, we're only going to have four points to create the edge or the shape of the eye. Whereas if we select a couple more faces like these, then we get more points to play with on the eye. For that matter, we could use the top of the head, which is pretty much the whole side of the face like that. Yeah, that might be the way to go. Let's see. Look at it from the front. It's going to give us a lot of points. But a lot of points may be what we want for the roundness of this face here. So let's just try it. Go again to inset faces. Pull those in. See, now we've got all these points selected. And it's going to collide back on itself. There's a way to not offset even, not boundary. Nope. What we can do is select. Let's go back. I just undid. It's the weirdness of the shape that's causing the problem here. So what I'm trying to do is figure out, maybe there's another loop here just to kind of create that. So we get a more rounded eye. And then same thing here. And then we'll select those faces. Turn them, look at it here. Yeah. That gives us kind of closer to the eye shape. Do our inset. Let's go ahead and just round out all the points. Like so with everything selected, edges, or actually verts. And then loop tools, circle. Now that's going to make everything rotate weird. Let's try to fit inside. That caused issues. You can rotate back by selecting the angle, which gets us closer to where we were. We'll figure it out in a sec. Let's go ahead and scale these in a little bit. Whoops, accidentally inset. R, scale in. And then, so what we're getting here is this elongated shape. We'll just pull that flat because we're going to fix that with the nose here in a sec. But we want to get the eyes in the right place. Let's seeing through because of my transparency on the shape. We're starting to get the shape that we want. So let's go and out of edit mode, select our object, go to material, and we will crank the alpha up so that we can't see opaque. Yeah, so now we get our, you kind of see the shape that the topology that we've created. And what you can start to do now is go into edit mode and just push and pull points to get a rough outline. So let's get our head reference here so we can look at it and start to model. Against that, just in position. So we'll go here, select, oh wait, turn off all of our, we don't accidentally select our drawing. So now we can start to like push and pull the eyes to get everything right. So if we go edit, looks like he's got a pretty good bit of a gap here. Pull those over. The same thing here. Pull this one tighter. These will smooth out once we do a subdivide on them, so I'm not too concerned with them looking really rough, but I want to just get like the rough position of the corners, I guess. This one can come in, these two can come up. Same thing here. It's kind of got a Spider-Man type of eye. Let's look at it from the side. Maybe back. These can come forward. I'm just trying to round them out so that they don't look like they're denting the roundness of his face. We'll pull out the nose and get the rough shape going a little bit better. I'm just trying to like, what you generally when you're doing topology, you're gonna want edges that sort of don't do radical turns, that flow a little bit across the surface like that. Got a weird Ngon going on here, which is interesting. By Ngon, what I mean is it's got more than 4 sides. So you got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's an Ngon. There's tries. You don't want too many tries when you do a subdivide because they cause pinching. We can worry about that later. I'll probably show you how to do retopology later. I'm just getting the rough. I'm showing you how to model, like box model the rough shape first, and then we'll get into retopology. Looks like this needs to go up higher. There's the outline. Yeah, it's fine. Come in, this could come out, this could come out. That too. I think it's pretty good. All right, let's talk about this nose now. So what you're gonna want is the whole face kind of protrudes out, right? Like the eyes will be shaped along the nose from an angle, but you're going to want to pull out this whole thing like an extrusion. And the trick is, how do you do that? So once for the first go around, the entire outline of his head, minus just the face. So there's the eye. We don't want to extrude the eye. That's the problem. It may be that we just do our subdivision and pull that face out after we do that. Let's try that. We don't have to be perfect the first go around here, so let's leave it in round mode here. We'll also pull out the neck so that we get that edit. Select these. Oh, I can't select the other side. Yeah, he's got a narrow neck, so just those will work. And it does go to this front point. So what we can do then is go inset again. Now this is a weird one because we're insetting and we want these faces to go in, but we also want them to go down. So let's go and pull down like that. We're going to delete these and then pull these points back to the center. So there's no hole there. Now the other thing is if you look at this mirror mode, there's this merge point. We want to crank that up a little bit so that points that are close enough will snap together and close on their own and merge. And depending on the scale of the object, you can crank it up a lot and how detailed it is. So you can kind of, well, you can't see. Let's see. So you can see where as I get them close, they snap and close. That's this merge point. So if we crank that up a lot to like 0.1, you have to pull them farther apart to get them to snap. So if we go too big on that merge, you'll end up merging some points that may be really close together in other spots. So you got to be careful about that. So let's go to 0.05. All right. There's the neck starting. And we're going to pull out more of it. And there's going to be a trick to that. So we're going to just pull down the neck here. Extrude. We're going to go just to the middle, pull it in, pull it across. Again, the references don't quite match. But the thing to understand is that as we did that extrude, we created, if you go inside the face here, some interfaces that we need to delete because that creates bad topology. So you want to select those interfaces and delete them. Okay. Probably truthfully do it with these on the bottom too, because you can just select the edges and do it that way if you want. So if you just select these edges, yeah, and then extrude those. Oops. Instead of doing that, I want to pull them out wide just to create that double clicking that edge loop there. So I can select it all and then pull it to the center. And then we could just snap the points on the corners and in the front. And what we can do to round it out a little bit is select these flat corner edges and pull them in. And maybe these, instead of lining up straight, can come in a little bit like that. So you get that kind of rounded neck then. Maybe pull that up. The back will be a little bit arched like that. Pull that wide. Necks tend to be a little thicker in the back. All right. That's good enough for now. All right. So now that we have that, there's our rough model of the head, just the beginning of it. So what you can do is add a subdivide, generate. Probably want to do debating here. Let's do multi-resolution. That way I can show you some sculpting. So we go, because if you do a subdivision, you can edit and it will smooth out. Let me just show you subdivision first. So it smooths out this model, and in some ways it's too smooth. So, but it adds more polygons. But in order to edit it, you still have to go back into edit mode and edit your original cage. So if we wanted to do it this way and pull out the nose, we could select all these points like this and start to pull out the muzzle like that. We'd have to fix the eyes, pulling those back into place and all this stuff. Instead, you could also just edit these points, pull out the muzzle that way, leaving the eyes somewhat alone. That's probably what we'll end up doing. But you lose the ability to kind of deal with shape a little bit. You can add more vertices in. So like we could say, select these faces here and here, and then subdivide those to create. Did I select them all? Yeah, I did. Subdivide. There should be an edge loop in there somewhere. But you can see where it created an edge loop. It's hard to edit. So what I'll do instead is show you sculpting. So to do sculpting, to do something similar with sculpting, let's get rid of this subdivision. Go to modifier and generate in multi-res. And what you do then is you just say subdivide, subdivide. And you can see your subdivisions as well. And notice that the multi-res came before the mirror. It's just the order that it has to be in for sculpting purposes. But what that does then is it gives you the ability to pull out the shape. So if we go into sculpting mode and select, I'm just pulling out the menu here to the right, select this elastic deform. You can grab the points and pull those out. In a kind of sculpted way that makes it a lot easier to edit. And then we can go and do the eyes and fix them. So if we want to add more to our multi-res sub, we can just subdivide again. Let's go to the side. You can change the strength of the radius here so we can pull it out a little bit better to match the shape. And then if we looked at it from, we could smooth it out later, but that in, hold on. You can see where it's, go to the bottom, it's creating this pinched nose. That's easy enough to fix once we get it right. Just select the right faces and pull them out. and then pull like these a little bit back. There's also a way to sculpt them out. I'll show you that in a sec. Right now we got to be careful because we're going across the plane, the Y axis, which will cause our stuff to clip. So you just want to make sure you keep it all lined up on the Y and let the mirror connect it up. All right. Let's look at it. So that's a okay start. If we want to sculpt closer, so one of the things we can do is we can apply the mirror. Turn off the multi-res here. Apply. We got to go to object mode. Apply the mirror. And to apply it, you just click on this little arrow down key and hit apply. So now we have our mirrored shape. It's all one thing. And we have to rely on X symmetry for sculpting now. So then if we come back up here and turn on our sculpt modifier, we just messed it up. Because the mirror wasn't applied, came after the fact. So, and it's the thing to understand about sculpting is you're baking in levels of sculpting detail into this mesh. So what we're looking at now is when we turn it on, is we only did the one side and we lost the mirror, so we lost the other side. What you can do to fix that is potentially go under object or an edit mode, mesh. I think we might need to do the multi-res again, actually. Let's go and turn this off. We'll get back there, add a modifier, generate multi-res, subdivide 2, 3, go to the front mode, go into sculpting, and using our elastic deform with X symmetry turned on here. So you can see where you're sculpting and there's going to be a dot across. So if you go to the side now, select that point and then just pull it out. Same thing to here, and then this back. You can tweak it as much as you want. So I'm just getting the squareness of it going. If you wanted it really square, I'll show you how to get that. Pulling his neck back here. It's kind of like push pull, just to get the rough shape. You can see where it's a little thick on the sides. You can pull that in. Let's go to the top. Maybe pull it out wide here, and then narrow there. Let's see it with our wireframe turned on so we can see what we're editing. As long as the distribution of the squares is pretty equal, it's okay for it to be a little deformed. Like I said, we may come back and retopologize later. You can see where the ear's getting off here. We'll clean that up too. I just want to make sure from the front that the ears didn't get too squeezed. They did. Pull it out wide. And it's the width of the head there. A little wider up top. So it's got kind of a jawline. You can kind of start to see the way the topology can be squeezed or kind of squared out to make it fit better. This can probably come back some. This coming forward more now. There we go. Same thing here. I mean, everywhere you see these little pinches, that's where there was a triangle. And you can see where triangles can cause problem with topology, whereas squares don't. Narrow it a little bit. Yeah, starting to get there. And then maybe like, okay. We'll figure out the eyes here in a sec. Let's look at it from the bottom. You want to look at it from all sides so that you can kind of tell if something's off. Yeah, I think that's looking okay. So now you can see where this is our peak for the hat or wrap on his head that he has. So let's pull that back up to where we want it to be, roughly. And get our eyes. I think it's weird because like you don't get this idea of the nose at all from the side. It's kind of really hard to tell what's supposed to happen here. I can't tell if it's supposed to pinch a lot in this front part, almost like a slice. I'm gonna go with that because you don't see any idea of a line here. And this nose makes me think that it's really hard to tell, like, how do these line, how are they supposed to line up? All right, let's show you the idea of like planar sculpting now. So let's turn off the wireframe and show you, we're going to do one more subdivision. This is where your computer may start to slow down a little, because if you looked at up here under statistics, I'm only drawing 59,000 faces, so it's not too bad. I can go up to millions, but like depending on how many times you subdivide, it can start to bog down your machine depending on your graphics card. But you want to get it smooth because you want to be able to do things like this scrape, where you can run things and get like a hard edge going. It's called hard modeling. And it creates that robot. And then what we want is maybe a better, so you can see the hard edge going in the sculpt mode a little bit better. And it's just based on the plane that you're sculpting that you start at. So I'm kind of creating those robotic hard-edged shapes, right? Same thing along the bottom. Maybe here. And this is just where you can kind of play around to get the shape however you like it, however you want it to be. The more detail, the more subdivisions you have, the more you can kind of crease. You can also control the strength of it so it's subtle to get like really sharp edges. So what I want to do then is start to sculpt out the eyes. Once I get the rough shape for the muzzle. Something like that. And then maybe take this crease tool, and you want to take the radius down, and you'll turn on, you want it smooth. So if we just draw manually with the crease, we'll crank the strength up a little bit. Just draw manually with the crease. You can see it's just going to follow your shape roughly, but you want it to be smooth because this is like a robot, so we want to be able to draw like super smooth curves for the eyes. So what we want to do is, in the same thing here across this, the ear, right? So what we want to do is take our stroke here, and instead of space, make it a line, or a curve actually. And then actually, no, sorry. Go back to dots. And we want to smooth it. So it'll be under the tool settings here. And auto smooth here. So if we crank it up. Nope, that's not what we wanted. Stroke. Stabilize stroke. That's what we want. It means that it's going to take and only just sample every so often on the stroke. So it's like, depending on the factor, so that's less. So if you go more, it's super slow, but then you're just drawing like this rough, smoothed out stroke, okay? Let's take the radius way down to our, I'm going way too strong on the strength. It's also not doing what I expected to do. I want to, I think it might be draw sharp. Same thing on the auto smooth. Stabilize, I mean. Yeah, there we go. So we use that brush. And let's go to our drawing. So we want to go up. Let's kind of give them spider eyes here. So it's too big on that side. We also need a better example of a shader. I want to be able to get it so I can actually see the curves. Maybe like that. Nope, it needs to come down more. That's starting to get there. Using that as a guide, you can then take your elastic deform, crank up the radius, and pull it back into place to get the shape, get everything where you want it, right? So pull that in. Pinch the nose more. Probably round these out more. Thinking pull some eyebrows out more. Forward. Zoom in a little bit here. So what I'm starting to do is think about like how this tucks into what'll become the eyebrow and the idea of like a cheek or something. Which we can sculpt out in a minute. Yeah, I think that'll work. Take our plane tool again and just run it. To create the hint of an eyebrow kind of coming off of that. Harden it up some more. Oops, I really did a warp number on his nose there. We can always pull that back out, but if you can avoid, we'll make it creased with another tool here. This guy, this multiplane. Again, turn on stabilize stroke so you're not might need to turn it down. I'm just playing around with I think, yeah, turn the strength down. We also should fix the ears here. So we'll do the same thing with the draw sharp. Take the radius down and it's not perfect. You can always remember you can scale it or you can squish it using the push and pull here. So if we go to the side, crank up the radius. start to get the eyes pulled out to the right shape again. Same thing back here. From the front. The nose a little wider here. Let's go to the side and fix our general shape. Doesn't have to be perfect because, like I said, we're going to show you a thing called retopology. It's going to make this thing all fit together once we're just getting the rough shape to sculpt with to get the shape of the head and kind of realize the 3D-ness. So one of the things that's going on here is, in terms of fighting with the shape, is you've got this super round looking front profile, and then this not so round side profile that's more like a Roger from Star Wars. So depending on how that plays out, maybe this is supposed to be like a T shape, and it's supposed to round out, and it's going to be like this T-shaped nose. So like, I'll show you how we might do that. So like that would be, let's just get these wide again. I'm just pulling it wide, creating my edge lines. And then the idea would be is that you're going to sculpt along this in a way that's going to cut away into it. So we can just do, no, we don't want to do that one. That's a crease. We want, I think we just want to like push and pull. So probably just standard sculpt, and if you do standard sculpt, it'll sculpt out. If you hold control, it'll sculpt in. So what you want is kind of a hard brush, which would be in the fall off here. Instead of smooth, you'd want sharp, I guess. And change your radius. And hold down control. Just sculpt into shape to create that round face again until we get like, let's see what it looks like here in a sec. So the idea is like we're creating this thin layer. We can smooth it too. If you hold down shift and smooth, that'll kind of smooth out the roundness or the hard edges. So like when you end up with this super rough, you don't have to worry the fact that this looks all mangled and mauled. I'm just kind of getting the rough shape going. I want to get it smooth now. We'll carve out our kind of like that. So what we can do then is go back to our draw sharp, draw like that. and then pull the shape back the way we want it. So what we can do to flatten this rough stuff here is just use this flatten brush, and what it'll do is it'll pick the shape, the plane that it's on, and then just make everything come to that point. It's hard to tell with this in the shaded mode. Let's try it here. Doesn't seem to be doing anything. Let's crank it up full strength. Maybe it's fill. Seems to be doing better. Let's zero this or smooth this. I'm holding down shift to smooth. Oops, accidentally cut across. Maybe it's scrape. So you can see where we've got this inverted, it's kind of sculpting through itself. So we just need to grab this and pull it a little bit wide again, so that it's got some thickness and it's not hitting the backside and sculpting through the object. Rounding it out smooth again. Thing. It's really narrow right here, so I'm going to pull that out. Smooth it. I think that's pretty good. So now what we've got is like a really, really rough approximation, and we can totally tweak to our heart's content. Pull this up more. Something like that. That's in. We're gonna do a low poly retopo here real quick. Now that we have the rough shape, and to show you what that would look like. Get in there. Yeah, I think that'll give us enough to work with for the retopo. Let's look at it. Let's turn off. Let's get something bright. So I'm following this rough silhouette on the side here to get, looks like the eyes might need to go a little bit more like that. Harden it. looking at it. Give him some higher ears up here. Let's say that's good enough for now, for the head. All right, now let's show you how to do a retopo. And why am I doing a retopo? Because right now we're looking at 835,000 faces to get a really blobby, rough looking outline. And I could go and just keep sculpting and add in a bunch of details. It'd all be wasted effort because I would need all of that bad 800,000. You can see all the different squares like topology to get that detail when I could literally just go in and low poly model it and get just the detail that I need, and it'll be fine and a lot easier to work with. Plus I can go and tweak it easier to get the right details that I want to add later. It'll be easier to edit. So what we can do to do that is we go out of sculpt mode, go back to layout. Here's our horrible. You can see how bad the topology is going across all these lines. So that's the reason we're going to retopo here. We're going to make it so the lines literally trace the shape that we've made now. So turn off our wireframe because we don't need that. We just need this. It's not bad. I mean, it's the best I can do to tell what's supposed to be going on, but we'll figure it out. Okay, so yeah, not bad. So let's retopo. So what we need to do is add a new plane. Let's call this head original head. Let's do sculpt just so we know it's there. Sculpts. Okay. Save. I haven't saved in a while. Save often. Okay, we're going to add a plane. And for the sake of being able to see what we're going to be doing here, we're going to take that plane and give it a material. New. Make that material blue or some color, whatever your favorite color is, just for visibility purposes. And also down in viewport display, make it blue. Doesn't matter what color blue, but just so we can see it. So if we go into viewport display, we have some blue to work with. Let's turn off all of our references so that we're left with just the shape of the head now. And let's do a, pull this off to the right because we're going to mirror it. So we're going to mirror it across this object. So if we take our plane and go to modifier, add modifier, generate mirror, and then select the mirror object with our little tool here, this guy. So now we get one plane on one side, one plane on the other, and we can start to retopologize by using a cool little tool in Blender in the edit mode. So if we select our plane, go edit, see how there's only one side here. This is our retopo tool, this poly build tool here. You want to select that, and that lets you go and select. There's all kinds of little menu shortcuts to this. You can look them up online, but I'm going to show you how the shortcuts just follow what I do for now. The first thing we need to do though is turn on this little magnet snap, turn that on, and then snap to face, and then grab like a point, and then as you drag it across the surface of this model, the points will literally snap to the surface of the object. And we're going to just start drawing square polys on top. All right, so now the problem here now is like, because of the way this thing is working, oops, we can't see the face because it's going through the object itself. So if we go to this object mode here and under viewport display, so we're in the properties, we've got that plane still in edit mode selected, and go to object properties and under viewport display select in front. Now it will always draw this plane in front of the object. Even when you look at it from the back side, you can see where it's over there and it should be behind, but it's drawing in front. So let's click out, come back in, select our face, go into poly edit mode. For some reason, it's not letting me select. Maybe I need to select and set it to object, set origin to 3D cursor. What I'm wanting to do, also let's object apply scale, just in case for some reason the scale's weird. So we got our mirror turned on and it's going across. Let's crank up the clipping plane, or the merge, I mean. Hit edit. Now we're back to where we can work. All right, so select. Notice how it snapped when I got it close. You're just going to be making points along here. So we're just trying to create like a rough poly outline. So remember, we've got this idea of a mask or widow's peak, right? Oops, you got to be careful how you select here because it's super sensitive. It's almost like it's buggy. See, this shouldn't be happening. I don't even know what it's going and doing here. I think it might be buggy in 4.0. Ooh, that's not good. That or the functionality has changed. But you see what I'm doing here is like I'm going and creating these polys, laying them out based on the shape now instead of just some random sphere or whatever, right? So if I grab this line, I can drag out a new poly and stitch it across the top of the nose here. And don't worry about if you go too low poly, you can always come back into edit mode and edit with any of the tools here. Okay. So I always like to start with the eyes because usually they're a loop and you want to create a loop inside of, so let's go here and then down. Let's do one inside here. This loop is the one we want. So then you'll go and pull that to here. We may insert another line here in a sec. Now you just want to take and make a loop that goes literally around the shape of the eye. Don't go too detailed on the polys, because if you go and you do too much, it just is extra work. You don't have to. You can, as long as the topology is right for positioning and it kind of has a good edge flow. I'll show you what that means in a minute. You're good enough. So We'll do a corner here. Maybe pull this one up a little higher. You want to have these straight out, like wherever the edge of the eye is, you want to have an edge or line that'll start out from there so that there's a nice crease point. Yeah, it's looking good. So like here's this point, so this would go to here. That usually means you're going to have like an edge coming like this to here, and then another one. So I'm going to show you a little trick with this now. If you on a point, you hold down Control and just drag, you can make a new vertex that comes off that as opposed to an edge. So you can just sort of, what that does is it gives you the ability to create what I call a 5 poly split, where normally quads will be, 4 quads. If you need to change direction or insert an extra edge loop or reduce an edge loop, which happens a lot, that's where you'll do a 5 poly split. So you do that just by creating 4, but instead of connecting them, leave it open and then pull out another poly like I did there. And that gives me the ability to pull out this bottom here and just keep going. And this retopology is basically how you start to make good animatable faces, characters, whatever, but also game ready models. So low poly versions of game ready models. Because the sculpting part gives you all the details and lets you kind of work loosely and play with the shape that you want to make while you figure it out. Because if you tried to do that with this, you'd be constantly editing and it'd be kind of stupid. Whereas doing it a rough sculpt and getting the general shape like what we did here lets us go ahead and pull that to there and we'll connect them in a sec. So so you see how it's starting to look like Spider-Man. And we can run the topology wherever we want. So we're going to have like, an edge loop that comes here to this corner. And we can pull out another one there. I just did the little corner trick. And then we can run an edge loop along the bottom. We don't want them to snap, so be careful. They're pretty close here. I'm just going to run this all the way to the corner, which normally I wouldn't do, but I'm going to do it so I get a nice straight crisp edge, and I could come back in and add edge loops later, because technically there's not a lot of detail to this flat planar space, right? So why add it? Remember, we can make a low poly model this way. Pull out another edge to there. And then this one in. This is where it gets a little tricky because the snapping to plane face, and because we're projecting on top of this other object so we can see it, it will snap to its back faces. So if I go Control and then drag here and do it to there, oh, they may have fixed that. That would be nice. That would be really nice. So now we can just bring it to the center. Other face here. Yeah, it doesn't look, so that's really great. Awesome. Used to, it would snap to the back face there. So by doing this, now we can actually keep modeling and not go nuts. So yeah, here's where we have to get a little creative with what we're doing, because we're taking them to kind of an infinitely small edge there. Not infinitely, but see how it's snapping there. It's okay, it'll fix itself when I do this. All right, and then just come down off the front. All right, what happens there? Maybe it didn't. Let's turn this down. There we go. That way we can kind of really know where it's, get them closer so that they actually snap in the topology and they're in the right position. Sometimes if you turn up the snapping too high, it gets a little tricky to tell what's really going on there. So there we go. We could just do this to get it to that point. We'll fix that in a sec. Yeah, it's starting to look pretty good. And then we could come all the way down the front with this guy here. Yeah. We'll need to insert some edge loops for these, but trying to figure out how to close that. Here, let's go. I've talked about closing them because there's probably a shortcut for this, but I just end up going to select here and then select the verts and just right click, merge at center, and that'll join them up. And the same thing right here on that nose. There we go. And now we're back to business. Now I got to figure out, we need an edge loop here. So let's do an insert and pull that up to there. So we'll cut it across. Let's go ahead and do that. To there, yeah. And then probably another, yeah. Here, another edge loop. I've got snapping, so you got to be careful. It'll snap to the points. Let's turn that off for a second and use our vertex slide to get it up into position. And then just connect here to here. Then we'll merge these points. I'm selecting these two, merge, center, merge, center. There we go. And then it looks like we can go back to poly edit build mode and just pull this down to here for that edge, and then go all the way back to here for now. And or move it up to here so we could like run these faces along the bottom if we wanted to do something more. Oh, I turned off my snap mode, so turn back on the anchor so we snapped a face. This guy. Mainly we need to just try to keep it quads if we can, so yeah, I think that'll work. So we'll go like here to here. And figure out what to do with this, but for now that's good. And just pull out another face there. Let's do another one here. So what we could do is go something like that. Yeah, that'll work. Yeah, it'll work for now. We'll leave it. I like to go low poly. So we're gonna pull that. I'm just doing the quad trick now, like we're a corner. Looks like we need another. What to do here? thinking about this. So we can go something like that. It's not great because of this little pinch. So maybe we pull this up a little bit more. That could work. Control in the corners. Control, pull. We're doing it again. Let's see. Maybe to there and then down. Yeah. So we'll do a quad split here. And this one goes in here. Yeah. So then pull one down to here and just sort of figure out where to go from there. I love that they fixed the back facing issue. So used to I'd snap through, it just caused all kinds of problems. This is great. Makes it so much easier to do retopology. All right. So in some ways, having all these extra faces is creating like extra stuff here that we may or may not want. Because it's not a perfect sculpt. We'd almost like that to be flat and then tweak out points like halfway. So what you can do is trying to think about how to let's undo. Thinking like maybe go bigger jumps. And then this will go like to here to here. I usually try to avoid creating these inverted faces, but I think it'll be okay for now. By inverted, I mean like quads want to be, you don't, this concave shape's going to make it break in a certain way when it goes to triangulate. So, but it does give me a better flow of edge lines with less points, so I can create this straighter shape here that I kind of want. So I'm gonna do it for now. Let's go and merge these points. So merge vertices at center. G. I hit G to repeat the last command, so it's just gonna merge them all. And let's go ahead and run this along the bottom here. So got a quad here that's going to be fixed, easy to do. So if we go this corner and just pull that to the center, there's a quad. Remember, you want to work in quads if you can. And then the same thing, corner to corner, across the bottom. Yep, that's looking good. Same thing. Let's keep doing, do we want to do that or that? I think Yeah, why not? You want to pull out this one and then run that all the way back to there. And then you got one to go here. So if we want to add some edge loop split, we could kind of do something like this. So that we get some extra loops in here for the neck, because it's going to round out or start rounding out. Oops. And it gives a nice edge to there. Well, kind of want this, right? And then go halfway. Can always make another split. Something like that. So then keep pulling them out here. We're going to want to make an edge loop that goes around the ear like this. Join that up there. Make that edge loop first. Make sure you give it generous number of vertices so that you don't short yourself, but don't go too high poly. You kind of get a knack for it over time, knowing what's too high poly and what's not. It just takes some practice. Let's see. Let's fix this here. This one, go to there. Probably do like this, this. Starting to set up that curve going across the top, but being able to pull out an eyebrow as well, or at least an eye edge. Go ahead and fix this. Oops. If you make a mistake, just undo. Now, I'm debating here, like how this, I think that'll work. And this, and that'll be like the beginning of our cap. So let's join these points. So merge vertices at center. G, G. here, down here. And so you'll notice I'm leaving the eye open because there's a lot of things we could do here. We could literally add in kind of a spherical eye if we wanted. And we may do that, to be determined. Oops, we'll pull out the shapes later, but let's finish this ear. Go back to our poly edit mode. We're almost done. Get there at least with the head. And this will give you a good start on, because once you can do a head, you can pretty much do the body. There's tricks that you'll want to know how to reduce in places where you don't have to have all of the polys like on the back of the head and stuff. But again, it's similar to the 5-corner split that I showed you. It's just knowing how to pull polys together without going too crazy on the triangles. Try to avoid triangles because of that, like what you saw with the sculpting, because we can always come back in and sculpt on this, but at a much lower res if we wanted. So there's our edge loop for the ear. Just need to figure out how to join these, I think. So maybe down to there, probably. Yeah, something like that. And then we can have an extra line there, like to this. Might work. Let's join these up so we can pull out the points. Merge vertices at center. G. G. Yep. And then so now you want to have an edge loop that goes around the back of the neck in a kind of clean way. Just trying to figure out where to put it. Probably here. Now this is tricky because there's a lot of topology to cover across the back of the head here. So you're going to want to create some extra splits without pinching too many polys into the neck. So let's get this. Yeah, you don't want to make these two connected. You want to like do another. And just trying to figure. Because you want to basically come off like this back side of the ear all the way across the neck, so you figure out like how many, what's my base number of polys to get the roundness of this back of the head. And a good rule of thumb is to try to make them square. If you have elongated, like if the if the polys are too rectangular, see, there we go. We just got our first show through. Does an okay job, but like where it went to go push through. I think it must only do it on its own side. It must not do it on the mirrored side, so that's good. So anyway, there's our connection across the back, so we can run this all the way down to the bottom. Again, as squares. Looks like that roughly will line up to there, maybe. This a little wider. Control. Then control. Same thing. So you can see where we're going to run into an issue here. Not here, but here. I'm going to have to figure what to do. So it'll be... So we can go like this one to that. That's not a problem. Then you don't want to like overfit these, but that might work. Yeah, that looks better. That'll work. Let's continue to go down here. Too much overlap there. Yeah, this will work. So then we go like here to here. And then just one more. Oops. All right, join them up. I'm just hitting G after I've select to merge vertices at center, and then after that you can hit G until you need to do a different command. Let's just move this to rearrange a little bit. All right, select these, merge vertices at center. It's not terrible. Okay, we can bring those back around here in a little bit. Oops, snapped. All right. What you can do here is take this, and you want to kind of run these, since these are more vertical, you want to run them across. So let's go ahead and just do that. See how it's projecting through on the side that it's at? You can fix that by going and then do it here. So like if you do it on this side, it won't go through. If you do it here, it snaps to the back. So that's it didn't quite fix it. What we can do here is go across like that. So we just did a reduction. So instead of 4 quads, we have 3. So that's a 3-corner. And then that might, well, we got to remember that we've got that the thing across the top. Maybe it's like you model that separate. I don't know. We did that. Good. Let's go to the center. We'll figure it out. Like I said, we'll figure it out. So let's go merge at last. So it just goes to that point. Pull this one, move it to the center so it snaps. Then merge these at center and at center. Oops. All right, so thinking about how to, I think if we're smart, we'll just run this all the way across and get the cap going the way we want it. So might as well. Figure this out in a sec. So what I'm thinking is maybe like a 2 there so that it kind of curves. So that gives us our line going across. I think that'll work. And then we could create more of a point here. Figure it out. But like that's pretty good. So is it good? Not horrible. It's a little tight on the polys there. Maybe more like this. And then we can go across the top here. And just go up that way. Because it's going to end up wanting to kind of like have an extra loop here. So you kind of do this double split that way. This, just make it come later and come off like that. Yeah, that'll work. That will work. It's better. Here we go. I think, yeah. There. Could be the point. It's not horrible. Although then we got this triangle here. You want to run this back. That. It's not great, but it's not horrible for the smoothness of that either, so. Again, like have some extra lines across the top so you get something like this. And then probably need to run this guy all the way up and over. That's going to come to there, I think, probably. And then 1, 2, figure it out from there. All right, so let's all the way across. Yeah, see where we're trying to fit extras in here, so probably that means this guy goes to there. This guy comes down. So we kind of reduce. It's not enough. Here's where it gets tricky. It's always in the closing. Let's go ahead and merge some points to get everything to snap. Vertices at center. Merge vertices at last. G. So I'm merging at the last point, so I get these to connect up. Basically, the last means the last one selected. These I can just move over till they snap together. Let's get these merged. Merge vertices at last. This guy. So it looks like this needs an extra there. That one can go to there, to there. Oops, be careful. Maybe 2 here, yeah. That way. And 1, 2. There. Wow, it's so tricky. This guy here. Go ahead and close it off at the center. Something's weird here. It's this. So we can delete faces. Delete these 2. We'll close these up. Let's go back to verts. So merge at last. This guy. figure it out from here. See, this is the weirdness right here that's causing all that. So we can literally probably just delete these two. Try to get tricky and screwed up, which happens. I've been doing this a long time and you still can mess up, so. I think probably delete this. Yeah, delete this one. And let's just bring it back. There we go. Oops. To there. Still one short to these. It's like a little puzzle. I'm guessing if that comes over, this, and so we got 3 here. This guy. Probably could maybe merge these. Be careful. We got an extra line in here that we can probably lose. Let's go ahead and start merging some points. At last, this guy. Let's go ahead and do these. Just to see what happens. This guy could come back. So we got these now. That's good. All right, getting there. Merge vertices. Whoops. Last. And this guy. Now we got to figure out this one. I think I know what to do. It's not great, but merge vertices at center. And then do like a little 90-degree bend here. So it'd be like this, this guy. There we go. It's not the best. You almost always have this kind of stuff with like all of the edge loops, but the nose and everything is pretty great. Could probably lose that loop. I don't know. It's enough for now, but let's go ahead and run this edge around on the bottom here. So 1. Okay. Now, let's finish the ear. We're going to do it a little differently. Now that we have this, we can go to the side and extrude. pull out. I'm going to flatten it and scale it. More. Get it a little rotated like that. And then trying to decide if I want to just extrude again. I think I will. And then scale that in just to create like a bit of a bevel. And so what you can do here then is go like bevel this or bridge. This will be loop tools, bridge, and it'll make an edge going all the way across. Same thing here. Just edge to upside down. Bridge. G. And then the idea is you want to split it down the middle based on the count there. So I'll show you that in a sec. So if we take this and insert just an edge loop here. Did I go one too many? Yeah, there we go. Maybe. Let's turn off snapping so I can do it right. And then using our topology tool, just go like point to there and point to there. We'll merge those in a sec. Point to there and point to there. We ended up with a triangle. Not great, but it's okay. Merge vertices at last. Oops. And then for this, if you just select the two of the edges, you can do a new face from edges and it'll fill that triangle. So now you see that we have this thing's a little off. Maybe this needs to come that way. Yeah. There's our ear. Pretty low poly. You could also connect like here to here. Connect. And then we'll lose one over there. This guy to here. Yep. So then when I said let's lose one over here, we can do something like dissolve edge there. So we get another quad. Same thing here. Same thing here and here. So now it's back to all quads except for that triangle. And we can pull these in a little bit. Wait, it's not right. Took it to the wrong loop. No. Yeah, this guy, connect. And then this guy, connect. So what you do is you lose this edge. Dissolve. Yeah, we got some extra triangles in here. So the same thing here. Sorry, I'm probably, yeah, this is the kind of stuff you'll run into anyway, so. Connect. Here, let's do this for the sake of argument. One of the things you can do, like I said, I know I said avoid triangles. We're going to make some triangles. And connect these. mainly you avoid the triangles when you're going to do a subdivision. We're modeling this thing low poly, and we could come back and do a subdivision if we wanted, but for now, it's not imperative that we do. We can select these faces, insert or inset a little bit more, so like another inset like this, just to add a little more if we wanted to round this out. And then pull this point. You know, it's not to sound like Bob Ross. It's your own little world. Do what you want. There are some reasons for avoiding triangles. Like I showed you with the subdivision. We're probably not going to do the subdivision, and to be honest, the topology on this thing's pretty good anyway, so for what it is. So there's that. If you wanted to make something like an edge loop here, since we have the edge loop now, we can just double click on that and do a what's called a bevel here. Do this. And we could insert or do an extrude into the mask there to kind of create that hard edge if we wanted. For now, I'm just going to leave that. We can come back to it because we can mark it with a material. So what we can do for these eyes, same thing. You can double click that loop. Let's try making a sphere. Let's go back out to object mode. Let's save. Let's add mesh UV sphere. It's a little big. And let's rotate it 90 degrees. Why is it? Oh, because it's not inside. There it is. We can turn off the view in front now. So go to properties, select the face, and then turn off the under viewport display in front. We can hide this guy now since we've got our general shape. Let's rotate, like I said, our UV sphere to get it roughly in place. So the idea here is like he's got these eyes that are sort of more like a, let's rotate them halfway. And then if we go under, instead of global here, if we go to local, we could scale them sort of flat and pull them out to fit a little bit more within the shape. And maybe scale them a little bit more vertical that way and that way. Rotate them a little bit to get them kind of in place, and then use that as our guide to pull out or insert. Maybe it's insert. To pull in the edge loops here. So I'm just getting it roughly in place, and we can fix the collisions here in a sec. All right, with that in place, let's go ahead and let's click Shade Auto Smooth so it's nice and smooth, and then we will apply a mirror modifier. Generates mirror, and we're going to make it mirror across the mask so we get two eyes. And then we could select our edge loop now, and with extrude turned on, pull it in, and maybe scale it a little bit, yeah, like that. Maybe scale it a lot. So you get that edge loop. And the idea is just kind of like get that edge loop going and inset a little bit so that we can make material kind of outline, because he's got these dark eyes. But now that we know the shape that we want to fit those eyes, this nice round shape that we want to fit the eyes around, and we've got the low topology here, we can go and tweak these faces, pull them out a little bit so that they wrap around the eye a little bit better. Same thing here. So let's do this with the vertices. And you want to get these kind of crisp lines going, at least in terms of smoothness. Yeah, we could probably pull out a lot more here because it's really tight. Instead of local, let's do global. Pull that out. I'm just trying to make like the edge lines flow and make sense from the point of view of each axis. So like on a mechanical model, things will tend to be fairly straight edged. And line up in a way that doesn't have, that's smooth, right? So like there shouldn't be any like super fast changes in direction or position. Like things should look smooth. These are obviously all over the place, but it's relatively round. It's this kind of stuff, the edge loops is where it matters. It's looking, so we could probably pull these out. Maybe this in a little bit. Here's one. It's a little weird. So what I'm doing here is just making the stuff make sense from an edge loop perspective. Like if something needs to come out wide as a kind of frame for the like an eyebrow or eyelid, right? It's looking okay. This is a little weird. It's kind of straight on. Yep, that's good. Come in this. A little weird. There we go. I think it's pretty good. There's some weirdness here. It's good from the side. Back. Yeah, it's all kinds of stuff going on here. That's okay. Again, this is more round. Once it's smoothed out, it won't be as noticeable, but there are some weird bumps. This is just where the snapping on that one, where we didn't really model it out 100% because I was rushing it in sculpting mode. These ears these should be straight, right? Let's see. It's looking good. Let's go and look at it smooth. Yeah. So for the smooth part, you can get the creases going even more. Like we can force the creases a couple of different ways. You can go down under the normals here and crank the edges down so that you don't want to go too far. You get some creases like that, or you can crank it up smooth. So everything wants to do it, but then just put the creases where you want them. So like you'd want this edge to be sharp. Let's just do it to there. Sharp, mark sharp. This guy, hold down control so that it follows this edge. Mark sharp. There, mark sharp. Here, mark sharp. This one, double click. Sharp. This guy, mark sharp. This one. Oops, marked a seam on this guy. Clear seam. We'll use that for UVs later. Mark sharp. This thing across the top. And then finally, this thing, which will be our head part. Mark sharp. All of it. Maybe across the bottom here. And maybe across this, or like here. Let's see what that looks like. It's a little weird here. These edges should flow better. Edits. This guy, mark sharp. And this one can clear it. This guy could probably be sharp. Probably do that. Yeah, something like that. All right. I'm going to call that good for this video so you get the rough idea for how to make the shape. Let's go ahead and apply the materials now. So if we look at shading lines, turn on our reference. We want some gray, white, and black. So let's make our blue material the default. Let's make it We can use this eyedropper and select that pink. And then let's make a new material. New, call this black. And change it to black. And then edits, double click select, do it by face, double click select that, and select our black material and assign it. And then for the gray, we can do a black outline here too. Yeah, that's good for now. We can make these lines later for the face, like literally you could just do something like this. Trying to figure out where to make it go from, maybe like from here to here. Yeah, let's do that. Just do a bevel. And then select those faces. Like that. And then maybe even that little triangle down here. Then assign black. You can do that. Let's go ahead and make our gray. Metal. And make it a darker gray. We'll select the color. And then we'll actually make it metallic. And then select faces. Trying to figure out, like, let's do it to this first. Sign. It's too dark. Yeah, the roughness can be up. Maybe not too rough. So he's got that metallic look. And then we'll fill that. Let's go down from here. And then we'll go around for the neck. It may be that this goes up and then all the way around to there. So now we can just select. Sign the metal. Oops, missed one. That gives you an idea about how you can do these eyebrows. Right, let's do that. So they are kind of interesting in that they'd be probably like an inset version of one of these. So like you could do like this as a kind of a light, and then maybe this one. And you'd obviously want to model that out later, but like select those, make a new material, assign, make it yellow, kind of like that. Let's make the antennas. Basically, there's a couple of ways to make these, depending on what you wanted to do. The easiest is just make some cones. So if you, let me save, add mesh cylinder. And what you want to do is, let's do like let's do like 8. Make it low poly. Let's do 10, 12. And then let's go to wireframe, and you want to make it longer or narrower like this. So you get it narrow for his antennas. And that doesn't have to be perfect. And then you want to, we'll do the subdivision here in a sec. Let's go skeleton. Run it off the ear. Make it narrow and long. And then what you want to do is insert, go into edit mode and insert a loop cut. How to show you this? Basically, if you just click on it here by vertex, do this, and then you'll see where it's going to insert this edge, this loop, and then just run that up so that it's enough loop cuts that you can actually bend it, because it's got a curve to it, right? So what you would do then is select just one of the loop cuts by vertices here and turn on this proportional editing. And then as you move it, depending on, you can mouse wheel, and that's the fall off. So you want to make it pretty big fall off and give it a nice curve. And you can take the top and pull it this way and do a little rotation if you want. Smaller. And then once you've got the shape you want for the antenna, you can take, like I showed in the last one, move the origin down to the base here. Again, I'm in side view mode on the X, so now I can take that and put it in here. Let's look at it shaded and figure out what I did too much curve, but we can still fix it. Edit. Oops, gotta be careful. Make sure you're selected in X-ray mode. Literally, we can pull these to the right point. And we'll rotate this on a slightly lower one to get it into place, and then we can kind of scale it up a little bit. Really fine. We can lose some of these edge loops if we want. Dissolve. This one. Dissolve. We could select this one and then like use it to pull. Crank up our proportional editing just to get everything aligned. Same thing there. Let's do a dissolve here. And let's do these two. Oops, careful this dissolve. Oops, don't want to do this. Dissolve those. Now, in this mode like this, move this into place. Whoops, gotta turn off proportional editing. Move it into place, rotate, and then scale relative to the normal. Notice how to adjust the position of the scaling. I don't know what you call it, gizmo. We can even turn it out a little bit. Went a little wide. Like that. Okay. You can select these. And pull them again with proportional editing, not this guy. Scale it up. Just pull that curve until you get roughly the right curve, and then select all with our bracket key or whatever your shortcut is. Remember, I talked about it in the last video, how to change that. All right, so there's our antenna. Maybe we want to pull this a little bit off the your phone more. And apply our metallic material to it. And then if we wanted, we could put a glow on the outer part up here. Edit. Select by the face. Something like that, and then add another material, so make it new, select our blue color there, sign. You can go down to emission if you wanted to make it glow, and do the same thing, so that crank the strength to like 1, so now it glows in the dark. If you wanted. Whoops, I accidentally didn't select a face. On the back side. Same thing on the back face here. Glow on the material. And then you could mirror that across the head, like that. And there's your 5 pebbles head as a starting point. We can pull out the neck some more if we want. And then I'll do another video and talk about how to make the body. Let's extrude this down, and we'll insert an edge loop here. Oops, turn off your proportional editing. So So pull that in like this, and if you do a bevel on that, you can run it a couple of times and crank up the number of segments in the bevel to create your rounded edge. And then you can double click on these every other one. I don't know how many edge loops. Neck 1, 2, 3. That's right. Select those and do another bevel. And go to material and assign our black, like that. So now if we go to the front where we did our, just got to pull these together so they snap. Where we did our bevel, it pulled it from the center instead of from the back. Same thing on the back. And maybe even you want to go and select from the back or the front just to get that same curve going. Select those and turn on proportional editing. And instead of pulling it all together, just scale it down so that you can pull it in from the side. Same thing here. Just have to work on it a little bit. Straighten the lines out. Make these and scale them flat. Whoops. Without proportional editing turned on. Scale them flat and make sure you pull them till they snap. There we go. I think that's it. Let's look at them. Maybe there's a line up here across the top. This guy. And maybe this. So you could do a another bevel to create those edges, and then assign the black that way if you like. You can do the same thing across the top here. So that looks like. There you go. That's good enough for now. Sorry, this video was so long. It just covers a lot. So there's how you'd make the head. We'll show you the body in another video, and then do the clothes. We obviously still need to do the back side of the hole on the head, the connector here with the wires coming out, but we'll cover that in another video too. So hopefully this helps.